We're almost walking on top of the city now. We're only seeing the tops of the buildings. It is like everything has been just frozen. I've almost thought I've seen people wandering around, but I haven't, because this is an area that no longer sustains people. This is now a lost world. I'm Ben Fogel, and I'm travelling the world exploring places of abandonment. Lost worlds where people have been driven from their homes and communities by forces beyond their control. Here, on the Caribbean island of Montserrat, I'm exploring the only natural disaster exclusion zone in the world. In 1995, the Ch5 Hills volcano violently awoke, forcing Montserratians to flee their homes.
People were scared out of their wits, running and screaming and all those things.
It was like an ambush.
Thousands became refugees in their own country.
It was like hell. Some people sleep on the floor.
I left everything.
The volcano mounted increasingly violent assaults, taking homes, livelihoods.
Our village was done in 1.5 seconds, you know. Boom! And that's it.
And loved ones.
We lost 19 lives.
I'll hear of incredible escapes and great heroism.
So I say, if she's going to die, I'm going to die with her too.
30 years on, I'll find the physical and emotional scars remain.
I had nightmares. Every night I sleep.
I'll explore the buried landmarks of Montserrat's past. There's a time warp in here.
If you go into some of those buildings, the tables are set.
And meet a man putting his life on the line to carve out an existence inside the exclusion zone.
This is where I was born. I believe I could survive here.
Now, those who stayed are reforging communities. And whole villages had to be built, paving a new path for future generations. This is maybe a glimpse of the hopeful future. Is Montserrat finally rising from the ashes?
We came from a lot, but we have to believe in ourselves and believe that we can get back there.
I feel I've met a future premier of Montserrat. Just putting it out there. I'm over 6,000 kilometres from the UK in the West Indies. Nestled within this curved chain of volcanic islands is the tiny British territory of Montserrat.
At first glance, Montserrat is your typical Caribbean paradise.
But just over there is an incredibly powerful volcano. This is the Ch5 Hills volcano, and I can still remember when it erupted in 1995, making headlines around the world. Life here changed in an instant. Look at the steam coming from those vents. It's absolutely extraordinary.
Over the next week, I'm hoping to understand what it's like to live in the shadow of a volcano like this. What was lost and how people's lives were changed forever. This whole area now is an exclusion zone. More than 2/3 of the island is out of bounds, but I've been given special permission to go in.
But first, I want to get up close and personal with the volcano itself. So I'm heading to the Montserrat Volcano Observatory, or MVO. The team here constantly monitor what is now the most studied volcano in the world. The adventure begins. Hey, TC. Hey, I'm Ben. How you doing?
Good, good.
So TC, tell me a bit about what your role is and what we're actually going to be doing today.
You can see that mountain in the distance is a bit bluer.
Yes.
Than the one closest to us.
Yep.
That's because the gas plume is giving you this bluish hue, because sulfur dioxide gives you this bluish haze when it's coming out of a volcano. What we're going to do is we're going to use the helicopter to make some traverses into the gas plume
inside the plume sounds like we're getting pretty close to the volcano.
You'll be able to smell the gas.
I don't know whether to be scared or excited.
It's a unique experience.
I like
It is.
that.
You gonna close the door, TC?
Now for what we're doing, we need the doors open because we have a telescope outside with a fiber optic cable attached to the instrument and the computer.
Hope you're strapped in. What a view. Wow.
So what we're going to do, we're going to make transects so you actually see when we're in the plume because this signal will actually shoot up. You can see it going up now?
Yep.
It's shooting up.
Shooting up.
So you have to remember this gas is separated from the magma probably around 5 kilometers depth.
But it's got quite a long journey if it's coming from 5 kilometers below.
Yeah, I mean, we reckon it takes about 2 days to get to the surface. I guess the beauty about this whole thing is that the gas is going to get to the surface before the magma does.
Hence it being an early warning system.
Yes. But how does it smell?
It's stronger than I thought.
I love the smell of sulfur in the morning.
How close are we now to the crater?
Quite close. If there were to be an explosion now, we would not be having numbers.
Now you tell me. So it looks like we were a bit further away this time. It didn't peak as high as the first time through.
Well, there's a reason for that. It puffs and puffs like a wolf. It's not continuous.
It puffs and puffs like a wolf. I love that.
It
Wow.
does. It does.
Not going to get rid of this eggy smell for a week.
Back on solid ground, we head into the nerve center of the island's emergency alert system.
Screens. Oh my goodness, look at that. So you've got your main view of the volcano itself.
Yes.
And then what's going on all up here?
These are seismometers.
Seismometers placed around the island measure earthquakes, the key sign of imminent volcanic activity.
If there are earthquakes happening, you can actually see the images moving across the screen. So this is real-time monitoring happening right now.
What happened in your life then that led you to where you are now?
After volunteering at the MVO and speaking to some of the scientists. That's an alarm.
For what? You're telling me this in a volcanic observatory? An alarm for what?
Well, it's not the volcano, because if it was the volcano, it would set all of them off.
Okay.
So
one alarm is fine, lots of alarms is not good.
Yes. So this is probably something local to the site. Maybe a cow moving around.
A cow might have done that.
Yes.
Okay. So you've got here hazard level 1 up to 5. So 5 says threat of large pyroclastic flows to the north or northwest. And here on Montserrat, it was the pyroclastic flows that were so damaging.
Yes, because we don't get lava flows here. We get lava domes which pile up around the vent mouth because it doesn't flow that easily. So basically what you have is it starts as a normal avalanche as the dome collapses. We're speaking about sometimes 5 million cubic meters of material collapsing from the dome. As the rocks are colliding and breaking apart, they're releasing hot gas into the mix, and that fuels and drives the flow further downslope, and it gives it more speed as well.
Even in a vehicle, you'd be pushed to get away from one.
You can't outpace it, so you try and get out of the path.
This is going in my little book of survival.
Yes. I think one of the things I try not to do is to make mistakes in this job, because there are severe ramifications if you get things wrong. Anyone who's operating in the zone needs to have contact with the ops room, persons in this room. So if there's a problem, we can call you and tell you, leave.
Putting my life in your hands.
Should be fine.
It feels like I have stared into the jaws of a volcano that transformed this island forever. It's one thing to see the exclusion zone from the air, but I really want to see it from the ground. I'm on my way to meet Scriber. He's going to be my guide, because to go into the exclusion zone, I need an accredited person to actually accompany me, keep me safe. Scriber!
Hi.
I'm Ben. How are you?
I'm good.
Good to see you. I love this spot here. Volcano in the background.
Oh, yes, this is fantastic. Ben, welcome to this beautiful island, man. With me, I have a drink for you.
What is this?
Oh, that's bush rum.
Bush rum.
That's made from the natural bush in the wild. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, it's
Fresh.
Yeah, it's fresh.
Were you here when the volcano erupted?
Yes, I was here.
How old were you?
40 years old. I was born here. I'm from the south of the island, and Montserrat. This is my beautiful home. Aston, cool man.
How would you describe the people here, the Montserratians?
I must let you know that they are very, very nice people and very religious people. We are almost like a crime-free island. We still leave our car keys in our cars, and we leave our homes open. Hey man, what you say, Sam? You good? Yeah, man.
What's the population here now?
The population here is just under 5,000, and we once had a population of 12.5 thousand people, pre-volcanic eruptions. But during the eruptions, you know, life has changed, and most people had to evacuate.
My main reason for coming here is to understand about the Soufriere Hills volcano, the eruption, and specifically the exclusion zone.
You'll get a chance to see how the capital Plymouth is buried under volcanic ash.
Okay, it's often described as almost like a Caribbean Pompeii.
The Pompeii of the Caribbean.
Before driving south into the exclusion zone, my special access requires an official safety briefing.
So this shows...
The southern two-thirds of the island is divided into a handful of restricted zones. The most dangerous, called Zone V, encircles the volcano.
You must be mindful of the hazards that you would be exposed to. If it rains heavy in the valley, you could trigger lahars.
A lahars is a what, like an avalanche?
Where you have rock with water moving at a very fast pace. So you have the ash, and when we have heavy rains, it washes it off the flanks. Once that is happening, you do not cross the Bellum Valley. Do you have radios?
We've got radios.
Ensure that you do safety checks with the MVO.
Okay.
All right? Follow instructions of Scriber.
Yes.
He's familiar with procedures, and he'll get you out.
Okay.
All right?
So this is the bit that Kelvin was warning us about.
Yes,
If there's any heavy rain.
Any heavy rains, don't ever try to cross this. Now, when the first flow came down into the Bellum Valley, well, we never knew about how hot this would be. This gentleman went down with his dog. Dog jumped in. He thought it was water, and it was part of the pyroclastic cooked right there.
Really?
We're about to come into Plymouth. This is like the technical college.
Yeah.
On your left there, and then the adjacent to it was the secondary school compound. So we're driving in the yard of the school.
It's amazing how it's just been eaten by the plant.
We are now driving in the sea.
We're in the sea now.
In the sea now, so everything right of us.
This was ocean.
Yeah.
Because I'm actually driving on brand new land created by the volcano.
Yeah. And
so the island grew.
Definitely.
This is us?
Yeah, this is us.
Okay. On foot now?
On foot now.
Stepping out, I see nature's destructive power carved across the land.
We are walking on pyroclastic flows. All of this came down from the mountain, from the dome, and wiped out Capital Plymouth. I also want you to know that Capital Plymouth is still in its position. Nothing has moved. It's just that this is a city that is totally buried.
So there's been a continual aggregation.
Correct.
Of what, ash and
mud and because you have lahars that came down here, but mostly the pyroclastic flows. All these rocks are new rocks, just over 20 years old. Huge, Ben. You probably would wonder if these big boulders rolled all the way to this point. No, they are floating on the gases, you know. That's why it caused it to move so fast. How long did you think that it took from the mountain top to the sea? 4.5 minutes.
Wow. over on the right, it's much greener. Was this all affected, all these houses?
Most of what you're seeing looking grey, that is the flood that came all the way down. But all these homes that you're seeing going up there, these homes were burnt out by the surges. A pyroclastic flow can come down in one area and even 1.5 to 2 miles away. It kills everything in its path because of the surges.
Is that like when you open the oven and you get the hot air blasting out?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
If you go into some of those buildings, the tables are set where you just had to get up and just leave. Because we all thought it was just a moment that we would always get back to our homes.
But they're inaccessible now.
The authority is not giving anyone any chance to go there. Not even the owners that actually own them.
This must be a very strange feeling to stare from afar and see your home. So near and yet so far. For me, the scale is astonishing. Because when you look up there and you see that whole field of boulders the size of houses, and these things floated on this gas down, it kind of takes your breath away.
I'm in the Caribbean, exploring Montserrat's lost world. In 1995, the long-dormant Soufriere Hills volcano exploded back to life. After 2 years of increasingly large explosions, the evacuated capital of Plymouth, once home to around 4,000 people, was hit directly. Today, the ghostly, half-buried town is part of the exclusion zone. But I've been given special permission to go in with my guide, Scriber.
Scriber. This is strange.
Yes, very, very strange, isn't it?
Today, what's left is slowly disappearing, succumbing to ash and being reclaimed by nature.
Amazing, Scribes, that we're almost walking on top of the city now. We're only seeing the tops of the buildings.
Anything that you are seeing around are the buildings that were like from 3-story up.
So it's already 3 stories buried beneath all of this. Wow, what was this?
Ramsey supermarket.
Shopping trolleys. What are all the jars?
The baby formula.
Look at this fine dust.
Yeah,
here.
this is just ash.
Wow. I bet this got everywhere.
Everywhere. The ash goes everywhere that you can ever think.
These huge steel girders are all kind of warped.
Yeah, because that is done by the pressures of the heat from the pyroclastic flows.
No way.
Actually came here. This was Endeavour Club. Watch your head with these guns.
Wow. Look at the telly.
Oh, yes.
My family had a telly like that.
Wow.
The bar, all the
And the bar.
bottles. What would you like? My round.
I think that I'm going to take a martini. I'm going to take a martini.
Martini, please, sir. God, look at it. There's just a little treasure trove, isn't it? A time warp in here. Goodness me. There's tins that are closed, but there's nothing in them.
Because of the surge that got here, actually dries out most of the things that you would ever see in here. This is the Montserrat Springs Hotel.
Probably slightly less glamorous now. On first glance, it's quite a kind of sad place, but I tried to imagine what this would have been like in its heyday. The happiness, the people from all over the world enjoying themselves, laughing, smiling, carefree. This is now a lost world. This is a place of abandonment. It just goes on and on and on.
Yes, yes.
So much history here still.
Scriber's like this whirlwind of energy, and it's bringing this whole history to life for me.
Let me just give you a little idea here now. Oh, you see that pole that you are seeing down there? That was the Shamrock Cinema right there. Saturdays, the entire island, you know, the kids were able to come and go to cinema.
Did you go on dates?
You know, all these things do happen. I'm telling you, music galore. You're dancing, you're down in Capital Plymouth here, everywhere you're hearing that music. You just want to come and join. It was fantastic. It was definitely a fantastic place to be. Oh man, you could see the goosebumps are coming.
A thriving, laid-back town, Plymouth was home to most of the island's 11,000 inhabitants. Everyone knew each other. Tourists enjoyed its warm waters and sandy beaches. And world-famous musicians flocked to the famed Air Studios. But in 1989, Hurricane Hugo devastated the island. Montserratians pulled together and, by 1995, had rebuilt homes and communities. That year, the island once again enthusiastically celebrated St. Patrick's Day, embracing both their early Irish heritage and the slaves who rebelled against it. But beneath their feet, the volcano was waking up.
There's that famous photograph of the clock tower, kind of half buried.
Yes, it's still there, but it's buried.
So does that mean that all these remnants that I'm seeing now one day may also be completely covered?
One day might be completely covered.
This is often described as the Caribbean Pompeii, and I can see why, because it is like everything has been just frozen. And you see little glimpses of what was, and then as your eyes look further, you see complete houses. I've almost thought I've seen people wandering around, but I haven't, because this is an area that no longer sustains people.
I'm exploring Montserrat's lost world. 2/3 of the island is now an exclusion zone, including the old capital city of Plymouth.
That is huge, the amount of material that came down.
That is the material that took out Capital Plymouth.
In the early 1990s, 80% of the island's infrastructure was in the shadow of the volcano. Despite scientists warning the government, most islanders, including my guide Scriber, didn't worry about their long dormant volcano. But in July 1995, that all changed. When strange sounds started coming from the mountain, they mistook the rumbles for aircraft.
During the day, we were hearing the sound of jets. Yeah, we were wondering, but those jets have in that mountain for the entire day. What's going on? Then on the 6 o'clock news, the governor came on the radio and announced that something is happening to our volcano in Montserrat. The first explosion that took place the end of August, early September, and I was in the village of St. Patrick's.
Whereabouts is that?
See that mountain over there with that greenery?
Yeah.
My village is just beneath that. When that explosion went off, I said to my wife, everybody in Capital Plymouth is dead. Because the explosion was such a huge explosion. The ash was coming out so black. And then the entire area you couldn't see through.
So this big black cloud literally racing down the mountain.
Just racing down and coming straight through this area. Fortunately, it was cold.
So everyone survived?
So everyone survived. It was just
terrifying.
Terrifying. Because we never knew, we never had that experience before. When it cleared up, I get in my car and I came to work at the agriculture station just below us. Every one of the girls that were in the office were on the outside crying. Every single one. Then we thought things were going to subside because as time goes by, it cools down and things like that. But the scientists at the MVO were saying, listen, you got to get out of the area. So you had the evacuation in 1995. Then by 1996, we were allowed to go back. And a week after, boom, everyone got to get out of the areas. And we thought that we would get the chance to go back, but never get a chance to go back.
Wow. I mean, unbelievable what the island experienced, but unbelievable what Scriber experienced. The first explosion happened, and then they all had to evacuate. Then some time passed, and many people returned. And the thing is, almost the trauma of the island went on and on and on. I'm wondering, between 1995 and 1997, when those eruptions were happening, did you all have an escape plan?
Yeah, we all had an escape plan, and there was contingency plan put in place, but most of all, we would listen to the radio station. We would listen to Rose.
Rose?
Yes.
Who is Rose?
Rose Willock is the voice of Montserrat.
And is she still here?
Yes, Rose is still here.
Do you think I can meet her?
I would like you to meet her. You cannot come to Montserrat and don't meet Rose.
Lucky for me, the famed emergency broadcaster Rose Willock is still on the air.
Hello. Rose.
Hi Ben, how do you do? Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien, gracias.
Ah, sí.
I'm very excited to be here today. Everyone talks about you on this island.
Really?
The voice of Montserrat.
They do?
Of course they do.
Good heavens. Not just Montserrat or Caribbean, trust me.
So you're obviously a very good people person. You're a very good communicator.
Yes.
And all of this came to a head in 1995 when you had tremendous responsibility.
Absolutely. They called me and told me that they had this big ash cloud. I said, all right, I'm coming to the station. I said to the others, y'all can go if you have to, because I know they were scared and all that. I went to the library. I got a whole ton of music, appropriate music. Went to the on-air studio, sat at the desk. And they tell me after those there for 12 hours, I'm like, no way.
Were you scared?
No, I cannot be scared because I grew up in the area of the Ch5 Hills. But there are people who were scared. They were scared out of their wits. Some people were just running and screaming and all those things. And I'm saying to people, yes, this is scary. And if you have to cry, cry. If you have to bawl, bawl. If you have to scream, scream. But please do not go outside. Stay inside where you are. Make sure all the windows are closed. It's going to be okay.
You tried to avoid people panicking.
We have to avoid people panicking. You don't want people running out in the city and getting run over. And the scientists will come to the radio station every day and they'll give information about what is likely to happen if the volcano got angry. Some people are saying, oh, the scientists don't know what they're talking about. Oh, you know, the usual thing. But because this Rose telling them, they say, oh, it's true? Yes, it's true, you know?
So do you think people trusted you over the scientists?
Well, initially, yes, because they thought the scientists were crazy, in effect, to use a colloquial term. We had to relieve people's stress and all that. And you do that through music, as you know. Because we're a Christian society, we play the relevant Christian music in terms of God will see us through and God will take care of us and, you know.
What happened to your home?
My home was destroyed, Ben. I became a refugee on my own island. Fortunately, I had friends in the northern part of the island who allowed us to stay in one of their homes.
Did you leave everything behind?
The only thing I took was some mementos I had taken from different parts of the world that I traveled to. And my certification in terms of education and all that. I left everything else. And my eyes are welling up because when you think back in terms of those persons who've lost so much, I'd insured my home. Thank God I did that. Because when I lost my home and everything, I still had to pay the loan from the bank. That's why so many had to leave the island when the opportunity came than to come to the north and pay rent. Not Rose Willock. Rose Willock wasn't going to leave Montserrat. Because for me, with my knowledge and everything, Montserrat needed me. One. And two, I really love my island, you know.
What's the spirit of a Montserratian?
We're happy people. We look after each other, but we're very independent. Never mind we're British overseas territory. We're very independent, right? You know that, right? You can tell, right?
I can.
There you go. Okay.
I don't want to get on the wrong side of you, Rose. I feel slightly starstruck having met Rose. You can't underestimate the role she had here during those periods of eruptions between 95 and 97. There was no social media, so this is how everyone got their news. Not only was she the voice of Montserrat, but here she is, this beautifully turned out, very elegant woman who became a refugee in her own country. And that's the side of the volcanic eruptions that I am yet to see, those refugees. In 1995, the first terrifying eruptions drove 2/3 of the population, 8,000 people, into the significantly less built-up north of the island. People crowded into the few churches and schools. The British Army erected tents. Sleeping on pews or cots, people hung sheets for privacy. During periods when they were allowed home, life continued. In April 1996, people fled north again, leaving everything behind, unaware they would never be allowed home. The shelter population peaked. Thousands had no jobs, no schools, and no homes. When the UK offered the relocation package, many had no choice but to leave. Most never returned. I'm heading to meet Jumblak, who's forged his own unique path back to the only place he's ever called home. He's now the only person living inside the exclusion zone, over 5 kilometers walk from his nearest neighbors or shop. Hey, Jumblak.
Hey.
I'm Ben.
I'm Jumblak.
How are you?
I'm all right.
You've got the mighty volcano over there.
Yep.
What are you doing? What's this?
I'm sharpening. It's a agouti trap.
Agouti is like the rodenty things?
Yeah, it's in a rodent family.
What do you trap them for?
There's a problem. They eat my vegetables. When I'm not around.
Do you eat them?
Yeah.
Are you entirely self-sufficient up here?
Yeah.
No electricity?
No.
Grow all your own crops?
Yep.
Can we go and have a look at them?
Yeah.
I'll follow you.
No problem.
Oh, wow, look at this. Look at your garden. You got a lot of crops in there.
Yeah.
I'll give you a hand, Jumblak. Good fertile soil here with the volcano.
Yeah.
So what was it like here as a young boy growing up?
I had to do this kind of work. Not much schooling. Look after the animals and help your parents. Come from a poor family, you know, and I used to have to walk from here 4, 5, 6 miles to school.
So how big was the community here? How many people lived up here when you were young?
A few hundred. Yeah.
So what was your first memory of the volcano awakening?
Like an ambush. They didn't tell us in school that there was a volcano there in the bushes hiding. Be prepared. It might come alive one of these days. You know? So people was wondering what the hell going on up there.
Where did you go?
North.
North.
Yeah. Into tents, into schools, into churches. It was like hell. Real confusing. You know? Some people sleep on the floor. Some people go in the bush to shit. You know? Military ration. No income.
Did you ever think about leaving the island?
Yes. There was a financial incentive. $10,000. I went up to Antigua. I got 3 installments, and it was gone because I wasn't working. That wasn't money I worked for, you know? And it was confusing to be in a foreign country, living a handout, you know? So after that, I spent a year in Antigua. I came back to Montserrat. This is where I was born. I believe I could survive here. This is why I'm here, cultivating, planting my cucumbers, my carrots, and whatnot.
What kind of state was this area in when you came back?
Ash everywhere, buildings, the roof collapsing, a lot of material, big rocks, a lot of ash go up, 25,000 feet up, and it came back down wet, you know? So it was heavy. A lot of roofs, they collapsed. My roof didn't really collapse, but a lot of ash was on it.
What did the authorities think of you coming back here?
I was fined $900 and warned me not to come back here. Yeah, but I did. I leave the courthouse and come back here.
You left the courthouse and came straight back here?
Straight back here. I had no choice. My mind.
And what did they then do?
They didn't trouble me. What they did, they came back to look for marijuana. You know? Because I'm a Rasta man.
How would you describe your life now?
As a survivor. Yeah. Real survivor. But the key to surviving is to know about the volcano, how it works. I've already got my escape planning route from here too. I head that way. Well, the guys at the MVO tell me that too, you know. You move away from the volcano. You don't let source catch you in the open. No way, you die. Or you sustain serious burns. You get into a building.
What do you think, though, Jumbulak, when you walk around here and you see the remains of neighbours who once lived here as well? Does it make you sad?
No, because everybody is not the same, you know.
Do you think other people will ever return here?
The mindset, a lot of them die, you know. Yeah, old age, and they settle down in other more less risky places like England, America. No way they're gonna come back. With the volcano, it's still active. Yeah.
Is it not a bit lonely up here?
I have my phone, I have my radio, I have my iPad, and I believe that's enough. I have my books. I have volcano books.
Can I ask how old you are?
65.
65.
Yeah, you can't believe it.
You're unbelievably fit and tough.
Yeah.
How long can you sustain this for, Jumbulak?
That's a good question. Maybe 5 to 10 years.
Would anything drive you out of here?
Yeah, the volcano.
I've met a lot of off-grid pioneers, but no one living by themselves in an exclusion zone in the shadow of a violent volcano. Jumbulak is willing to risk his life to be home, living free on his own terms.
That's good. Thanks, Jumbulak.
Yeah.
Look after yourself.
I'm beginning to get an idea of just how much Montserratians love their Emerald Isle and what they're willing to endure for it. I'm on the Caribbean island of Montserrat, exploring the legacy of its still active volcano. After the final evacuation of the capital in 1996, the volcano entered a new explosive phase, setting fire to houses and crushing any hope of going home for thousands of refugees. Including my guide Scriber, who'd evacuated his village of St. Patrick's multiple times and taken his family north to live with relatives well outside the volcano's reach.
What happened to your village?
Well, my village, St. Patrick's, was hit by a lateral blast. And a lateral blast is different to a pyroclastic flow. Actually, like a bomb. So it blew from the side. Our village was done in 1.5 seconds, you know. 1.5 seconds. It's like, boom, and that's it.
During 1997, the volcano's dome grew, then collapsed in different directions, sending pyroclastic flows into new areas. Confusingly, the no-go areas constantly changed.
That's pyroclastic right there.
Okay, we gotta get out. It's moving this way. Get out.
But after 2 years, becoming used to the explosions, islanders doubted the scientists. Some ventured home to avoid the indignity of the shelters, or because they needed to farm its fertile slopes in order to survive. By May 1997, scientists warned of imminent, unprecedented explosions as the mountain grew and grew.
That dome was growing, and we were getting tremors. You're lying down on your bed and you're just doing something. You just feel like you're like... And then by the 25th of June, 1997, that was the real true sense of the word.
At 12:57, the dome collapsed to the north for the first time, and the MVO sounded the sirens. At 1 p.m, a second larger avalanche sped down the same valley. At 1:08, a third huge pyroclastic flow roared down the mountain. The people working their fields, sadly, had returned. There was no chance of escape.
We lost 19 lives. Well, rest in peace, I would always say.
Did you know any of them?
Yeah, one of them was... Okay, this. One of them was my very good friend. He was such a good friend of mine. And I remember talking to him like 2 days before. His name was Joe Pond. And I said to him, Joe, what I want you to do is to keep away from the Farrell area. They had no rights to be there, but that was their farmlands, their earnings. That day, they perished. He's never been found because he was in an open field and he was riding a donkey. And he went on the donkey and tried to escape, but the flow caught him right there. His remains are still there. And I always say, one of these days, I would really know. I hope I'll be able to find his body. You know, sometimes when I talk about these things, I really do get emotional because I've been through it, you know, and everything is just embedded in my brain.
You know, the emotion's still raw. It's nearly 25 years ago. Many people would find this too painful, looking at the devastation and the power of this mountain. It takes strength and fortitude to remain here. But Scriber has not only stayed, but he confronts us on a daily basis, taking people like me on tours of the devastation. And I think maybe it's his grieving process. I think it's partly his way of dealing with it.
On that fateful day, daring helicopter rescues began immediately. A lucky few were winched to safety as everything around them burned. Others were found the next day curled up exactly like Pompeii. Some pulled off incredibly narrow escapes, like Scriber's childhood friend, Arthur.
Hi, Ben.
Arthur, how are you? Nice to meet you. Scriber's been telling me lots about you.
That's right.
All good?
Yeah, he's a great guy. Hi, Scriber.
Okay, up the hill. Wow, look at that. Oh my goodness me. You can really see the plume today.
Yeah.
Wow. So where's your home, Arthur?
Okay, it's right there. The one between the two churches.
Yep.
That's my house there.
Wow.
That's right there where Mother Nature caught me.
When you say caught you,
I wasn't expecting it because we've seen little eruptions and we've seen pyroclastic flow and plumes about 40,000 feet. So I'm accustomed to it. 97, the 25th of June, that was when things hell break loose. So on that day, I went to do an assessment on my house, and that was why I was there. So as I was there inspecting my house, suddenly a bright day like this turned to the darkest night. It was just terrible. So when I looked around, I realized that there was steam coming to the valley. I said, no man, this is not nice, something is wrong. So then suddenly it blanketed down, all the ash started falling, so I just could not see. I had a friend with me, and as I drove up onto the main road, I just couldn't see, so I had to stop. And as I stopped, I had on my air conditioner. My air conditioning was working, but then I was getting hot air. I said, what is this? Something is wrong. And as I rolled down my windows, I realized that there was surge on the edge of the grass, burning it, which it also burned my tires too, two of my tires. So the young lady said, Arthur, we are stifling. Yes, we were stifling, but I had to be the calmer. So I had to get out of the car because I would expect it to blow up and kill me. The friend and I got out of the car. She was heading back where the house is, and I was heading away. So as I called her, I realized she was far away from me. So I said, if she's going to die, I'm going to die with her too. So I went back and I wasn't seeing her, but I was hearing her voice.
Because it was so dark.
Yes. You'll have thundering and lightning. You have pumice go up about 25 feet in the sky, in the air, and fall on my head. As I call, I hear her in the distance, and I follow the sound until I got to her and hold her hand. Now, the hot air rises. I don't know what told me to bend down. I was kneeling down, stooping down, super heat and ashes. I got burned because I walked in it, so I said, Lord have mercy, this is the end of me. By the time we got back to where the car was, we just couldn't see nothing at all. But I was able to drive the car from there on 2 tires. The other 2 were burned out. Down that same steep hill, down to Corkill. Well, the burn was so serious, and you can see where the grass my feet here. Yeah? And if you look a little closer here, you'll see where I got burned there as well. It was pretty bad. I had nightmares. Every night I sleep, I thought that the volcano is covering me. Of course, I really wanted to thank God for sparing my life. A song came to my mind, Amazing Grace. How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Amazing Grace, I find it a very, very moving song. Does it take you back to that moment?
Take me back. You should have come talking here to you. Mm-hmm. My heart beats a little faster because I really, how many of us would have seen death in our face, staring us and get away? Because we had about 19 people die. I should make the 20th one, but God is good, so I did. So, I'm grateful to be alive.
Obviously, a lot of people left the island, some assuming it might be a temporary departure, but many never ever came back.
I would be the last person to leave Montserrat. You know what? They have the 8 and bulldoze and so. They would have to pull me, and if I tie myself, they butt me in peace and leave there. I love Montserrat dearly. That's how it is.
Arthur. Unbelievable.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yes, thank you.
There can be very few people in the world who have lived through a volcano and survived. I can't really imagine the terror and the fear. And I think for me, he sort of symbolizes the resilience of this island nation in general. Arthur said he lived with these terrible nightmares for many years. And although Arthur's scars are physical, for many people here, it's the scarring here that has endured and in many cases will never go. I'm exploring the human consequences of Montserrat's deadly volcano. By the end of 1997, after 2.5 years of eruptions, 90% of the population had moved at least once, and 2/3 had left the island altogether. As communities were permanently torn apart, islanders told their stories in song, a tradition born in their colonial past. Hey.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, what's your name? Tabu. Tabu, very nice to meet you, Tabu. And
Cupid.
Cupid.
This is their stage name. There are 2 icons you're looking at here now, Ben, in the Calypso Arena of Montserrat.
I have to admit, I don't know very much about Calypso music. Yeah. What was the most famous song? Hot, hot, hot. Can you do a riff?
Yeah, man. Ole, 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 ole. Feeling hot, hot, hot. Feeling hot, hot, hot.
I mean, listen, it puts a smile on your face, and I defy everyone in the world has heard that song.
Unlike most genres, Calypso is really
the social commentary, it reflects the community. We have calypsos about love too. We have calypsos of the latest gossip. We have calypsos of any controversy that's happening in the government.
In my opinion, calypso is the poor man's newspaper.
The poor man's newspaper.
Yeah, daily life, whatever is happening in society around us.
Wow, that is an amazing description of it.
That's exactly what the slaves used to be using to get the message out there when they rebel against the masters and things like that.
I'm assuming hurricanes, volcanoes, the big volcanic eruption has been a big part of the music.
Yeah, well, particularly during the volcanic eruption, I think that situation sort of brought out the talent of Montserrat. While we were suffering in a way, it was also bringing out our creativity.
Why do you think it did that?
Well, I guess it was a sort of release.
People going through no homes, had to move from the area to live in this place. It made you more aware and more conscious of your entity, your whole island as a fact around you.
I think this song sort of reflect how I felt and probably how the people had to leave felt. It's called Take the Road. Your ticket's already purchased. You're packed and ready to go. Just how much it must have hurt you, no one will ever know. You promised you'll never run away, but the crisis is now too rough. Though your heart tells you you wanna stay, your body cries enough is enough. So to give your stress a little ease, you opt for overseas. Then take the road, take the road, take the road that leads you home.
Really sad, but tinged with hope.
Yeah.
Thank you for that amazing introduction to Montserratian Calypso. Wow. I don't think I fully understood the power of Calypso, the poor man's newspaper. And I feel really privileged hearing these beautiful laments that are streaked with positivity and hope. The creativity that came out of such a tragic event will stay with me. And that for me is the excitement of a journey like this, to understand both the positive and negative impacts of something so life-changing like this.
It wasn't just the human population that suffered as a result of the eruptions. Thousands of abandoned dogs, donkeys and goats were incinerated, wounded, or sadly wasted away. Others became feral. In the immediate aftermath, my host Scriber played a leading role as a forest ranger. Nearly 30 years on, among his many jobs, he continues to monitor the recovery of Montserrat's wild animals.
Okay, Scriber, you're good?
I'm good.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my goodness me. What's that I can feel on my head, Scriber?
Yeah, that's droppings coming on your head.
Droppings?
Yeah, so they're actually pooing and they're actually peeing.
Now you tell me. Oh, wow, Scriber.
Yeah, look at that.
There are hundreds, thousands maybe.
Thousands.
What kind of bats are they?
These are called brachyphylla bats, or the pig face bat.
Pig face?
Yes, because the face of it is looking like a pig. And this bat plays a very, very important role in our ecosystem here on Montserrat, because they are pollinators of our fruits. Do you love fruits?
I love fruit.
These bats actually disperse around the entire island of Montserrat, at 39.6 square miles.
So how did the volcano impact the bats here?
Oh, in a big way. They lost their teeth.
How come? Why did they lose their teeth?
They lost their teeth because of the ash. It actually worn their molars and their canines and incisors. They were in bad shape, you know, and they lost all their furs, like a bald bat.
No hair?
No hair whatsoever.
What are you doing, Scriber?
Yeah, I'm just gonna show you.
Oh my gosh, you've actually got one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Look at its face. So this is part of the research. Sometimes you actually have to catch them like
Yes,
this.
I have to catch them like this and look at them.
Oh my goodness me. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
And all the hair is intact?
Yeah, all the hairs are intact. Yeah.
And what are the teeth looking like?
And the teeth are looking good. Good shape. You see how it's looking like the face of a pig?
Yeah.
Look at it. Look at that. Beautiful, beautiful animal. Yeah.
This is just incredible in here. The sounds, all the bodies. It's extraordinary that the flora and fauna was also affected by the volcano, but in slightly unexpected ways. But look at the population now. So it kind of shows that it bounces back. And these are a key indicator species. It's all part of the bigger picture here. Although there are remaining scars slowly through the bleakness, I'm starting to see the green roots of Montserrat. Montserrat's deadly volcano assaulted the tiny island from 1995, only stopping its explosive phase in 2010.
Hi.
Hi, how much are the coconuts?
$5 for one.
Yeah?
2 for 10.
2 for 10. Yes, please. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
After the south of the island was evacuated, everyone had to come here to the north, and whole villages had to be built to accommodate all of those refugees. Today, nearly 30 years on, the reconstruction continues. The hospital remains in an old school, and the island is still looking to build a new port and parliament buildings. I'm intrigued to meet someone who's returned after the crisis. Venaire was taken to the UK as a child. Now she's back and determined to attract other Montserratians home and improve prospects for youth on the island.
This was originally called the St. John's Primary School.
Yeah.
And I attended here from 1989, just after Hugo, until probably 1994.
Happy memories?
Happy memories indeed, because there was no such... Well, there was a volcano, but it wasn't active yet. And then, boom. Unfortunately, it's one of the things that people take for granted, because someone like me, for example, I never had to evacuate from my original village and then move here. So most people think that we didn't lose much. But as you can see, I completely lost my primary school in the blink of an eye. And the next day you're going to school in a tent. So that was quite traumatic for us as kids at the time. And for me personally, my mom just wanted me to be safe. So she sent me to live in America with people that I didn't necessarily know before I migrated to the UK.
Where are we now?
So this was my where my dad used to live when I was younger. So I can literally remember riding my tricycle down here and stuff like that. So it's a nice little memory.
So Venaire, you were 12 when you left.
Mm-hmm.
When did you come back here?
So I returned to Montserrat in 2019. So I was at this point in my career where I needed a change. So I remember that day it was probably one of the deepest conversations I've had with my mum in a while. And she came off the phone and she was buzzing because I think she wanted to use me as an excuse for her to come back as well. Because
to live it vicariously.
Yeah, but also she's always planned to move back. But the thing that was keeping her in the UK was us, her children, because all of her children are in the UK. So then she happened to go online on the government website and saw a job at the Arts Council that same Saturday. And then I applied for the job in March, and ironically, I just said, I'm going to come anyway. And I just became obsessed with Montserrat. And I think that's what gave rise to 664 Connect Media, which is my media platform that I started since arriving here. Because I was finding it difficult to find basic information, what's happening on the island, where do you look for a job, what do people do day to day. There was a point when the island could have essentially been closed down because of the size of the population. So there were some Montserratians who stayed behind and essentially held the fort. So I feel like by going to the UK, I can come back now and contribute the skills to the redevelopment of the islands.
How different is the island to the one that you remember when you left?
Well, the north was a lot of barren land. Directly in front of me used to be our little sports ground, and now it's the airport. Down there we have the government headquarters.
Yeah.
And further down we're getting a new port development that's coming too.
So it sounds like there's huge opportunities, a huge amount of kind of development coming in. The one thing I've noticed spending time on the island, especially having visited the old Plymouth, is there doesn't seem to be kind of a heart to it. And I don't mean,
I know, you
felt
mean like
nothing
a
but
central hub.
a central place.
You know, you want a city, right? So the difference between Hugo and the volcano was that communities lost their community. So there was nothing to unite and rebuild. We were encouraged to leave. So we don't have that at the moment. And I think that that is something that will dramatically change the island. It also help us to develop our private sector because 60% of our funding is UK aid. And then the other 40% is made up through taxes. So unless we establish a private sector, those taxes are coming directly from us. The people here on the island, cost of living is already high. So I feel like what I personally want from the government, I can't speak for anybody else, is to develop a vision and a sense of direction for the island. We can be an island where we're focusing on attracting celebrities. Are we going to be an island where we're trying to attract scientists for research? Who do we want to be? You know, give us a sense of direction that us as a population can work towards.
Do you think there'll be more people like you coming back?
Right now, I'm actually fighting to hold the young people here. We create all this knowledge and then sending you well-educated to the UK. Because we have an aging population, the young people kind of get left behind. So what I've been trying to do with everything that I do, I have an after-school club where I'm trying to expose them to IT, but also to expose them to the past. Because if you don't know where you're coming from, you don't know where you're going. There's a quote, and I'm not saying it verbatim, but you should plant trees where you'd never benefit from their shade. And essentially that's what I've been trying to do here. Let's focus on the solutions. Yes, the volcano was a problem, but we have solutions like sand mining now. And it actually contributes a lot to our economy. So that's a positive. I know that we have potential geothermal energy quite close to where they're doing the sand mining at the moment. There's potential for companies to come in and invest into the island. You know, I think we came from a lot, but we have to believe in ourselves and believe that we can get back there.
I feel I've met a future premier of Montserrat today. Just putting it out there. What a force for change Vanessa is. She's come back here with great hopes and aspirations to help move the island on. I think it's going to take individuals like Vanessa to make those confident changes. So there's no doubt that things are dynamic, but it's where the population wants to take it. For me, it's obvious the volcano that took away so much does have the potential to actually give back. It's beginning with the mining, the potential for geothermal, and I'd argue that volcanic tourism is actually a great opportunity.
One last trip into Montserrat's lost world is a poignant reminder of the strength of this community and what Montserratians are striving to rebuild.
Oh, wow. Oh, Scriber.
Yes.
Oh my goodness me. This is a powerful place.
Yes, this is St. Anthony's Anglican Church.
Almost lost for words in here, Scriber. Look at the organ.
At this moment, the memory is just coming back. Oh, it seems as if I'm just hearing the sounds echoing in my ears because this church used to be always filled with people at Sundays. Because as I mentioned, Montserrat is a very, very religious community. And I think that is what keep us going. Yes, St. Anthony's Church, I'll always love you. And you would always be in my mind.
Is this a sad place for you now?
It is certainly a sad place for me because what used to go on, used to happen here, it's not happening anymore. But to be standing in this church and talking to you, Ben, means more to me than anything else.
Why is that?
To share my experience with you, to be here with you, talk with you, to show you our beautiful islands, show you the destruction, mean a lot to me because I can stand and talk to you And that pleases my heart.
You're going to make me cry. The scars run deep here on Montserrat, both physical and emotional. I've met so many amazing people, from Jumbelek to Scriber to Arthur, really near misses. Great heroism in saving friends and escaping the wrath of this incredibly violent volcano. And I think for me, the hope and the perseverance of the human spirit really shone through with those individuals. They have all said they will be the last ones to leave the island. I think there'll be quite a few of them clinging on if that was ever the case.
It's my final evening, and I'm privileged to enjoy a night celebrating Montserrat's musical roots with my new friends. Through the devastation, I can see a community fiercely proud of their unique culture, celebrating their past as they work to reforge their future, their spirit unbroken, despite what Mother Nature has thrown at them.
I defy anyone to not smile. It's so infectious, this. The whole community coming together, celebrating Montserrat's history and heritage, the Irish heritage, the African heritage. Such a great thing to see this side of Montserrat after so much of the devastation that I've been looking at. This is maybe, a glimpse of the hopeful future. Because it's not your typical Caribbean holiday destination, but I think that is the unique selling point for this island. And if anyone asked my advice, I'd say come here. Yeah, it's pretty unique.